Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, and by Rain-X, Hum by Verizon, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
And thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome to MotorWeek podcast number 193. I'm John Davis, and joining me in Studio C at MotorWeek World Headquarters is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello, John.
Online content coordinator Greg Carlos.
Hey.
We are honored with FYI reporter Stephanie Hart joining us today.
Thank you.
And video producer, editor, and who is the producer of the podcast, Joe Ligo.
Alive and here.
Okay, we've got a viewer question, a motorcycle test, and an important anniversary. But first, 2019 BMW X4 has recently been in our garage. Everybody chime in. The particular model we had the 3-liter turbo i6, 355 horsepower, all-wheel drive, 8-speed auto, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, yada, 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 $60,000. Is it worth it? What is it? First of all, someone describe versus, say, an X3, what is an X4?
The creature from the black.
I'm going to ask Brian Robinson to do it. Go ahead.
It's a more stylish version of the X3, but less practical.
Coupeized. It's coupeized.
Stylish.
Apparently, I mean,
That's what they say.
It's a 5-door coupe.
If I were to describe it, I would go a little bit more of a roundabout way. It's like a Mercedes-Benz GLE with a BMW. GLE is that same type of
one
car,
model
right?
is, yeah.
I think it looks extremely similar.
you can get GLEs and GLCs that are coupes that are not coupes.
Yeah, you can get the box, or you can get the coupe-ish.
It looks like a GLE.
See how confused we are?
Well, BMW started it with the X6.
Right.
They started the coupe thing.
Yeah. It's making a 4-door SUV and calling it a coupe.
Right.
Well, but Mercedes started that with the cars first. So, Anyway, let's get back to the X4. What was it like driving it? You made some comments before we started rolling about the M40i, what it sounded like when you started it up.
Yeah, we did have the M40i, which is really fast and also really loud. So we're in the basement office below ground.
But we have glass.
Yeah, and I'm in my office pretty far back.
Actually, you don't have glass. You're about three offices back.
I'm well insulated, and somebody started it up in our back lot, and I could hear it like it was right next to me. And then to get outside, it's super loud. And if you're buying an X4 or an M40i, sure, you probably want that, but I was just taken aback by how loud it was.
They'll know you're coming.
It's a cool looking machine. I thought it was a good looking machine, but driving it is something else about it. You feel like you're in kind of a clamshell. It's like it's kind of hard to see out of.
Small back glass. Yeah. You're like squinting to see.
Thank goodness it's got good backup cameras.
Super fun to drive. We've been ranting on BMW with their lack of feedback in cars. I thought that car had a lot of feedback to it driving it. Super fun, but I mean, you just have to hate practicality to buy that over an X3.
I guess with versus the X6, which is a lot more money. It seemed like they scaled everything down, but they forgot that people still had to be on the inside of it. It's like it's almost too small, I thought. When you look at it, say, compared to the X3, which I think is a very generously styled vehicle.
It looks big on the outside. That grill, the kidney grill, they're really beef. It's got beef. Just visual beef.
Fun to drive, not very practical, but if you want to send us another one, BMW, we'll fight for the keys.
And they do make a 2-liter version if you're not crazy about.
Come on.
All right, yeah. If you're not an M person, but if you
don't want to be curious about it.
Yeah. If you're not an M person, you can get
this 2-liter turbo. We are going to do our bike test next, and for that I will turn to Brian Robinson. Why don't you tell us what was underneath your seat?
New Honda Goldwing, all new for 18. First new one in, 15, 18 years, something like that.
All new.
They had just had a 40th anniversary version a couple years back.
You just don't strike me as a Goldwing person.
I could be.
He took an Indian all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I could be. I could be. It's the quintessential 2-wheeled Motorbago motorcycle. like for that old people drive across the country. But
let's not insult too many of our
Well, it was
viewers.
at a crossroads because people that have traditionally bought that are no longer buying motorcycles for whatever reason. And then you have on the other side of, there's two touring motorcycle worlds. There's the sport tours like the BMWs, and then there's the cruisers like the Harleys and the Indians. And, you know, the Honda was kind of right there in between, doesn't really appeal to either one. And they kind of felt like they had to make it appeal more to one of those groups. So they made it much sportier than any previous Goldwing. It's almost like a sport tour now. To do that, they took a lot of weight out of it, almost 100 pounds.
Well, that's a lot.
But they also made it a little smaller and took some storage capacity out of it, which has got all of their traditional buyers very upset about that.
You can still get the traditional bike, right?
No, it's smaller.
There's when you were doing the road test, what is the other bike?
There's the base Goldwing.
The base one.
Correct. Doesn't come with a top trunk and some accessories. That used to be the Goldwing F6B. Now that's just the base Goldwing. The Goldwing Tour is what we always think of as the Goldwing.
With all the accoutrements and luggage space.
It's a pleasure to drive. I mean, it's super fast.
You like it actually better than the old ones, right?
For me, yeah, for sure. I don't mind.
But your hair's not all white yet. So.
Storage, and it's just super fast. Handles really well. You have to work pretty hard to get stuff to scrape in the corners, unlike the previous gen. All in all, I think they did pretty well with it.
You made an interesting comment that the infotainment system, that Honda's four-wheel division could learn a thing or two from their two wheels.
Yeah, so they have, like everything else, they got to have navigation and cell phone integration and CarPlay and all that, which they have extremely well integrated. There's thumb controls, there's controls on the tank, and they've done it without just the previous gen Goldwing had buttons everywhere galore. They've slimmed down the buttons, made it super simple and easy to operate. And the other notable thing is as a DCT transmission.
Would you go for the DCT versus a manual?
If you would have asked me before, I probably would have said no. But having spent some time with it, I mean, if you're riding a motorcycle and you just want to be super comfortable and just hit interstates and go to California for the weekend or whatever, why not? Why not just stay in automatic? Works really well. It's got a sport mode that lets you shift up and down. It's very responsive. It worked pretty well.
Okay, let's move back to four wheels. And Stephanie, we're going to turn this over to you in a second. I'll set the stage. Ford has done a revamp of their popular Edge crossover. They have made a lot of noise even before Stephanie went to the preview about the new ST model, which they were saying is their first true performance model and replacing the Edge Sport. However, when you look at some of the statistics, it still has the same 2.7-liter turbo V6, a little bit more power. So, Stephanie, we turn to you and say, what was your impression after all of the hype on the revamped Edge in general, but specifically the ST?
I thought it was sporty, fun to drive, really fast, 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, and you could really feel the torque going too. So I liked it. I drove it in Salt Lake City, Utah. I liked the sound the engine made when it revved. Had a cool sound, so...
There apparently is, in order to make it a true high performance, and I use that cautiously, SUV, you have to add a couple of packages, which give you summer tires, a more tuned suspension. Now, the ones that you drove, did you drive both a regular ST and this one with all the performance packages on it, or how did it pan out? Did you notice any difference between the two?
I drove the Ford Edge ST, and then I drove the Ford Edge Titanium.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Titanium wasn't as much fun. The Edge ST that I drove had high-performance tires.
So it had all the performance accoutrements, which is about an $8,000 step up on that vehicle from, 42 and change to 51. So I remember when you came back and you wrote your first comments for the web, you made the point that there really isn't anything else from a domestic brand in this class. True?
Right. Yeah, that is true.
Because if you looked at the SRT Grand Cherokee, it's a whole lot more money, and there's nothing from GM that I'm aware of. So you, after driving it, you came away impressed. Tell us more about it.
The only thing I didn't like, the chassis felt bulkier than, you would expect.
Really?
Yeah.
It's heavier just overall? It's a pretty big vehicle, but heavier, steering response slow?
The steering response was decent.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to pick between the sort of luxury route of the titanium, because Ford sells a ton of titanium stuff, or the sport route for driving every day.
Yeah, because you commute every day.
I was gonna say, would you get sick of one, or would you want to be? Do you want to be pampered, or do you want to be a show off?
I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't need a Ford Edge, ST, but, for my commute, I could do it with the titanium. But
Does that mean you like the comfort a little bit more?
It just depends on sort of what you're looking for. So, but I mean, the Ford Edge ST is certainly fun, I guess after work and on the weekends, and yeah.
So you felt like it lived up to its hype?
I think so.
Anything else you want to add about it? It's good looking.
For years, we were lusting after like European ST models of Fords, right? And we finally got them with the Focus and the Fiesta, and they were like serious, borderline non-daily driving performance cars. And now they're putting the ST label on this, so it's almost like what Chevy did with the SS, a couple of years ago. Yeah, just watering it down.
But it seems like they dialed it in, from what Stephanie's saying, pretty well for American taste.
Talks of an Edge RS, right? That's a rumor that's going around, which would be more.
That'd be even more hardcore.
What about the rest of the Edge lineup? Did they? I assume they spelled out the improvements or changes for the new model year. They're doing a lot more with. Isn't some of the advanced safety now standard?
Yeah.
Automatic braking?
Yeah, it comes standard with tons of safety features. Pre-collision assist with automatic emergency braking, which includes pedestrian detection. So those are standard, so that's pretty good.
That's a big deal for that particular class, I would say. I mean, I'm not so sure you can sell any family-oriented SUV without that anymore.
Right, and it's odd because the Edge is, I guess, kind of above, like, we test a lot of cars like CR-V and RAV4 and that kind of stuff, but the Edge is kind of a class above that. But
size, too.
But a class below Grand Cherokee, so it's kind of in a middle ground where you figure the buyers have the money to buy. They're going to spring maybe for these extra packages where, if you're just out looking for a Crosstrek, you're not going to.
It's kind of like a large compact.
I know it's a different
mid-size.
Well, yeah, I get confused because when I looked back at what we originally, the way we originally described the Edge when it first came out, I think it was a small for its size, mid-size. But that was the last generation. This one is bigger. So, okay, your point's well taken.
I think this will be the last thing maybe we say on it, but I would rather, and I know it's not the same vehicle, I would rather have Ford brought back the Flex than give us an Edge ST. Remember, I love the Flex, and I know I'm not alone.
They still make them?
They do?
Yeah, they haven't discontinued yet.
Yeah, only in up level platinum trim.
It sells very well in California.
Get out, man. Bring me back a Flex for a press car.
Flex and Bro.
They haven't changed them in years.
No, it's still its first generation.
Yeah.
It's just a big box.
I've updated it a couple times.
Yeah.
I remember we had the updated one. That's the one I fell in love with.
They haven't
With like the
changed it since
tailgate
then.
seats.
And that was the one where it sold so well in California that they took the Ford badge off and it just says Flex on the first.
That thing was sweet.
Does it still have the refrigerator arm on there?
I think it probably
the
does.
armrest with the cooler.
Well, we're going to stay with Stephanie now for her crown jewel. She has an FYI story celebrating Hot Wheels' 50th anniversary. And tell me this is one of the coolest stories you've ever done.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I got to go into Mattel behind the scenes, saw the Hot Wheels, met with the design team. So,
that's so cool.
They showed us how they create the Hot Wheels. So it was neat to see the process and sort of identify with how they think. 50% of the cars are imaginary, actually. And
that's a big change because originally they actually used, I guess, automotive designers from Detroit, and a lot of the stuff had similar, to real stuff. But now it's the people that are designing them now. Do you have any concept of like what their motivations are now? Is it just science fiction? I mean,
I mean, they're actually looking at autonomous vehicles too,
really?
and designing some Hot Wheels to mimic those autonomous
So it
vehicles.
won't have a steering wheel, probably.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, what's going to be the market for Hot Wheels when it's autonomous cars?
Hey, look at
can't even
this.
touch the
It looks like an Uber.
So what was I looked at some of your footage with you the other day where you showed they have a giant track, like indoor track in their like cafeteria area. That was
Yeah,
cool.
they had a
What was the-
life-size Hot Wheels orange track that we played with, so that was fun.
You didn't get to. You drove on it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, cool.
Was it a full-size track?
I just rolled the Hot Wheel down the track.
I'm stupid. I
What's
was
the
confused.
coolest thing you saw there?
I don't want to give away the whole piece, but yeah, there were so many cool highlights. So many cool
All right, tell us
highlights.
the biggest surprise you had.
The biggest surprise was when I got to go in the secret Hot Wheels garage.
Oh.
No one really knows it exists, and many
Now they
people.
do.
Well, yeah, now they do. It
Just
was-
gave it away.
oh well, you never heard that.
It didn't have a short door or anything you had to scrunch under.
No,
No.
they let us in though, and it was pretty cool. So there were life-size Hot Wheels vehicles in there, and then we saw the 1/64 scale die-cast right next to it. So it was really cool to see the big car and the little car, and
Now, they have a museum there as well, right?
we didn't get to see that.
You just concentrated on the newest, on the process and what's coming in new things.
Yeah, I mean, we could have spent 2 weeks there. There was so much to see, so much to do, and it was really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you think the future of Hot Wheels is bright? From what you saw, the enthusiasm obviously
I
is still there
think
with the
so.
company.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like a great company, and they're really revved to follow the car culture trends. They also look for ideas from the entertainment industry and, of course, the toy industry. So they seem to have their pulse on everything that's going on and staying relevant and staying up with the times. So
Really cool. Thanks very much for that. I can't wait to see it.
Seeing it.
Okay, we're going to switch from Hot Wheels 50th anniversary to our viewer question. Michael is asking, many new cars do not include CD players anymore, and because of the integrated design of these infotainment systems, you can't add an aftermarket unit. Well, that's not quite true. I have a huge CD collection. How can I listen to these in newer cars? I think you can still get an aftermarket player that'll fit like in the glove box. I'm pretty sure you can from people
Yeah,
like
I think so.
Crutchfield
There are
and so
a lot
forth.
of options, but I'll give you my hot take even if you don't want it. Michael, I don't want to offend you in any way.
But you are.
But yeah, I'm not intending to, and I appreciate you asking this question. But just go and put those CDs into your computer, and then put them on your phone or audio player device, and then plug in or go to Bluetooth, log in your Bluetooth in the car, and just listen to them.
Sound quality's not
And
the
if
same.
Because how it's not
That's
the same.
true.
We're
Well,
talking about
you-
a CD. If you're streaming from a streaming service,
You're
like
compressing
Apple
it.
Music,
It's not
yeah,
going to be
we
the
need-
same.
Into your computer, it compresses it.
That's right. However,
okay, how many of those CDs in that book were created from, were burned onto the CD?
well, they're
originally?
digital.
And I'm sure if he has a big collection of CDs, there's going to be a big book. I had it when I was in high school. I had a huge book of CDs.
Yeah, but they're
that I
still
always play.
you're still starting out with a good digital recording.
Not always. I was downloading from LimeWire and Napster, which I'm sure everybody was. And anyway.
Oh, you mean the ones you made at home?
I don't think there's, I don't think there's a big enough difference to carry around a book of CDs. And you know what? Rewritable CDs or CDs that you burn don't last forever.
Yeah,
they
that's true.
start going bad. So you're going to want to put them on your computer anyway. And while you're there, plug in your phone and put them on there.
I was thinking he had bought pre-recorded CDs. Now I did find a solution because I'm too lazy to do what you said, and that is I went out and bought. You can still buy for $29.95 a little portable CD player that you can either be battery powered or plug into what used to be the cigarette lighter, and then you can plug it in. If the car's got an aux in, which most cars still do, you can plug that in and listen to it that way. It's not automatic, but there is a way of doing it that's pretty cheap.
What my older brother does, because he hates linking the phone with the Bluetooth and all that garbage, what he did is he went out and bought.
Why? What you do it once, it's done.
We have a real generational gap here.
I get really heated about this.
Listen, what he did is he went out and he bought like a 64 gig flash drive, loaded up with all his music, plugged it into his car, never touched it again. He's got, hundreds of CDs worth of music all on one flash drive. You plug it in, you never see it, you never think about it. All your music is there, you just have it.
I guess it's also why Amazon Prime is popular.
As I say, it's simpler than doing it the phone way, because then you don't have to worry about like your Bluetooth always connecting. This way, it's just always the music's plugged into the car on a flash drive, and you don't think about it.
So
Sorry.
Anyway, that's all right. I think, Michael, we've given you various solutions. None of them probably as easy as putting a CD into a tray in the car, but that's just the way of the world. We talked about previously some of the car. There are not too many cars that we get in here that have CD players left. I think Subaru still does, but not very many. So we hope that helps. That was actually a pretty good rant and rave from Michael, but how about the rest of us here? Anything else to complain about or praise? Or come on, we had one before we even started rolling today. Let's talk about it. Numbers and letters.
Alphabet soup on some of these German car names. They're not just Germans, but they're the most obvious.
It's spreading
offenders.
to American car makers. So we're talking specifically, this conversation started with BMW because a 3 Series, the naming schemes used to mean something.
Right.
A 328 would have a 2.8 liter.
Correct.
Now a 2-liter 3 Series is a 330. A 3-liter 3 Series is a 340, and then from there it's just then you go to like an X3. There's an M40i option. What's the other?
Then you get in X-Drive, 40i,
and then Mercedes is no better with their GLCs and GLEs, GLE coupes, and things like that. Now it's switching over to Cadillac with the CT6.
I wonder if buyers are confused, or do they go in with kind of a laser focus of what they want and they don't care? Because we get confused because we see so much stuff.
That's a good question. Is it like a menu at Waffle House where you just point to the car instead of saying
I want that, and I want the I want the X4 or whatever it is, and I got a choice between a 4 and a 6.
Does it sound more exotic? Maybe
does it sound more appealing?
Yeah, because I guess our luxury brands stick with the alphanumeric. Is that why? Does it sound more appealing than?
Because I guess
there
are no mainstream brands that use alphanumeric.
The Kia K900, the Kia, their highest level Kia is a K900, right? And that's a global car, but every other Kia has a name. So maybe there's something to the luxury aspect.
It does seem to have separated. The luxury brands do seem to have gone that route. Where I think the mainstream brands want something where the name is a little more memorable.
And then Genesis moved to a whole other brand just so they can name.
The problem is, I think the big complaint, though, that we started with Greg said is that the numbers don't add. The numbers used to mean something. It used to mean your engine size or your something.
Now it just means better, maybe more power, bigger engine, but that's it.
You just get bigger numbers every year, and the numbers are going to get, 30 years from now, you're going to drive a BMW 3000, because it'll just keep adding.
Instead of an old Toyota.
That'd be cool.
All right. Thanks, guys. And ma'am. And let's see if there's anything else we need to cover today. I think we do want to thank our audio engineer, David Wainwright, and our podcast creator, Bob Mixter. And I want to thank Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, Stephanie Hart, and Joe Ligo for basically an extremely entertaining podcast. Number 193 for MotorWeek. And for those of you out there that catch us on some kind of video screen, we want to thank you for watching us on public TV stations across the country and also on Velocity. And if you need more information about MotorWeek, head on over to our website, either at pbs.org/MotorWeek or motorweek.org. Thanks once again for being a part of our show, and we'll see you right here on MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, and by Rain-X, Hum by Verizon, and State Farm.